and welcome to another edition of our program. I'd like to introduce our guest. First of all, I want to say thank you for watching. I'd like to introduce a very special guest who I grew up with. Her name is Cynthia Borrego, and I'd like to, I've invited her to come here. We've been doing this program for a good 15 years, and you are dressed very festive for Santa Fe. So I want to welcome you. I know it was a long drive to get here, and you are a candidate for City Council, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I am a candidate for City Council in District 5 in Albuquerque.
Well, tell us about why you're running, and I know myself what it takes to run for office and get out there and knock on doors and prove yourself. So what has that been like? And then we'll get into, you know, all your credentials.
Okay, sure. And yes, thank you for having me this afternoon. I did grow up in Espanola with Valerie, and I decided to run because I was born, I was raised, and I was educated in Albuquerque in New Mexico. And I retired from the city of Albuquerque in 2010, and things seem to be going very well in Albuquerque, but now things are sort of in disarray. The crime is out of control. And one day I woke up and I looked at my little one-year-old nephew, and I wondered what kind of future he was going to have if things continue in the direction that they're going.
Well, I know that you have a business, and I know that there's a lot of construction in Albuquerque because we all go to Albuquerque, and we know what that's like to drive down Central and move around the barricades and try to access the businesses. And it's really difficult because, first of all, you know, there's not parking, and then you park, and then you have to walk and almost trip over these, you know, it's a mess.
Yeah. You're referring to the art project, and yes, indeed, the city tore up 9.5 miles of road at the same time on Central Avenue, and I do have a business at, on Central. It's a small business in one of the antique malls. There's 170 vendors in that business, and none of us have flourished in the past year since they tore up that 9.5 mile stretch. We couldn't even get to our business, and that's another reason why I decided to run for City Council, because had I been on council at this time, I would not have supported that project in the way that it was constructed. There are impediments all over Central Avenue, and businesses have actually closed because of that project.
Probably restaurants and such.
Yeah, retail businesses and restaurants. People have gone out of business. And I don't think that that was the intent of the project. I think that the intent was to provide economic development, and it actually did the reverse of that. And there are businesses that, you know, are small businesses, and that's the backbone of our economy. So, you know, having a small business, as I do, I decided that, you know, if we're going to be an urban city, which Albuquerque, that is the direction that we're headed, we have to stop thinking like a small town and actually look at an entire transit system, not just one little leg of the transit system. And we need to make those connections and those linkages available to all of our citizens, not just one area.
Well, it certainly looks like you're well on your way, because I know you're working hard. I've seen it, and I've seen you, you know, you're really devoting your time and energy to this race, and it does look like you're well on your way. And you're obviously, I mean, looking at your resume, I mean, you have many, many years of experience at City Hall, and you've been a planner, and you've got an education, and you went to UNM. So let's go back to who Cynthia Borrego is.
Well, you know, Valerie, I've learned a lot from you, from watching you over the years and your elections, and I know you are a hard worker, and that's what it takes to run for office. Yes, I was educated at the university. I obtained a master's degree in public administration, and I have a bachelor's degree in education, though I was never a teacher. I became a city planner in the early 80s, and I I retired from the city in 2010, after which time I opened my small business. And I started doing consulting in about 2011, I guess, about a year after I retired. And I did development consulting, so I helped small businesses open their business. And then the recession came, and there was little construction in Albuquerque.
And that's what you want. You want to lure businesses.
Yeah, so I opened my little art and jewelry business. But definitely we need technology. We need to work with our bases, our base, I should say, with Kirtland Air Force Base, with Sandia. We have the laboratories. I mean, there's so much opportunity and possibility for Albuquerque. We need to look at technology transfer. And attracting new businesses.
You know what, and I don't mean to defer, but you just brought up the laboratories, and I've got to give a hats off to and a moment of respect to Senator Domenici, because he was such a hero, and I worked at the lab for so many years. And so, we all want to, honor his legacy, and so that's a huge loss.
He was a hero to New Mexico, and he brought a lot of money to New Mexico from Washington.
Absolutely.
And you have to respect that legacy for sure.
And he worked on both sides of the aisle, and I think in these positions you must work on both sides of the aisle, because, it's not so much, if you're a Democrat or Republican or an independent, it's about, how you work with the public to make their lives better and provide a service to them. That's why you get elected, because you want to provide a service. And believe me, you're going to find that out. Your phone's going to ring 24/7, and you need to be responsive, and that's a good thing, because
Well, and I think I already have that experience.
Right, you're on the AMAFCA board. What does that stand for?
I do. I serve as the vice chair of the Albuquerque Metropolitan Arroyo Flood Control Board, and that's
pretty important.
It is an elected position. I ran for that office in 2012. And I have been serving on that board. We deal with all of the drainage in the city and the county of Bernalillo.
Only Bernalillo, not Rio Rancho. That's part of my district.
Yeah, not Rio Rancho. We work with SCAFCA, which is the Bernalillo arm of the flood control. And we work jointly on projects with them that are adjacent to
What
Albuquerque.
is that like? What do you prevent flooding, or kids from playing in the...
It's very involved. We ensure that our arroyos are built well, that they're maintained. We ensure that the water is clean when it goes back to the river, so we work with the Environmental Protection Agency. We test the water and ensure that it's clean.
How do you test the water? I'm curious. I need my water tested.
Well, we have engineers and scientists that go into the river, and they actually test it to ensure that when it flows back, because we deal with storm drain water.
Do they go as far as Chama?
No, they don't go to Chama. But, we could possibly work
Find
on
me
that.
some resources.
Maybe we can start a branch of the flood control in Chama. Actually, we work with the Corps of Engineers, so that is sort of probably the people that work with smaller areas. Those are the agencies that work with the smaller communities.
How interesting. So this job for city council will keep you very busy, and it's good. You're retired. You'd have time to devote, because you definitely are going to need time.
Yes.
So you would have time to devote to this position.
Absolutely.
How many city councilors are there now?
Currently, there are 9 city councilors, and they represent the entire city of Albuquerque, and they're broken down into districts. And
oh yes, districts. You need to tell me exactly what your District 5 or what district?
I'm running in District 5, and that entails everything from Montano north to Rio Rancho, and from Coors west to the city limits. So it's a big district. There's about 45,000 people that live in the district.
How many registered voters in that district?
Oh my gosh.
Those are the things you're supposed to check.
Yeah, you would ask me that. I'd say it depends on the election. because
right,
there's
right.
city elections and then there's the federal elections. So the numbers vary depending on that. But in order to win my election, at the current election that I'm running for, I would probably need at least 7,000 voters to carry me.
That's not a very big percentage.
No,
So, you know, the way you're
there's-
working it, it looks very, very, very hopeful.
I've probably knocked on over 3,000 doors in this election, and most of the doors that I've knocked on have the same issue. When I get home at night and I look at my notes, it's crime, crime, crime. And you know we are in a crime wave right now in Albuquerque. My particular election and my particular camp has been endorsed by police and fire. And I'm really honored to have those endorsements.
Absolutely.
Because I have a 5-point plan to reduce crime, and they've endorsed that plan. So I'm honored by that, by those endorsements and by that support. I think that some of my experience as a city planner has helped me because I worked over the years with police and fire on issues related to community and neighborhood building and ensuring that, you know, we used to work with a program called the Safe City Strike Force, and we always were in communication with the police department in terms of if there were properties that were abandoned and they were drug infested. We always had a police officer that we could go to, and they would go to those homes and, you know, enforce. We also worked with community policing, which was very, very strong back in 2009, 2008, and has sort of gone by the wayside now.
Well, you really have that huge realm of experience of working not only with fire and the police, but just the basics of what it takes to govern a city.
Yes.
And you're educated, you're qualified, and you know, and you bring up fire, and I think of your father. Your father was, talk about your, and your mom, of course.
Yeah, well, my father was a 30-year firefighter in Los Alamos, and he worked as a federal firefighter. So he worked with all the, you know, high security areas. My mother was a substitute teacher, as your mother was a teacher, I know, and I totally respect teachers, and I think we have that base that, you know, we are interested in the basics, and for our workforce, for our future workforce, we need to ensure that our kids are well educated and that they have the basics, including math, mathematics, and English, and they understand, you know, the very basics of life. And that helps them when if they have a stable family and family support. I think we both have that because we had that in our lives, and they encouraged us to be successful. And I think
and they worked hard. You said 30 years. You know, my grandmother who raised me, Trini Espinosa, I mean, she taught 37 years, and then she went back for another 5 years.
Yeah, and that's how my mom was, even though she was a homemaker, which was a very positive thing for us as children. But if you think about them being teachers, they actually gave us the basics to be in the positions that we are in now. And I think those are the things that children nowadays, some of them are being raised in single-parent families, and they're trying to work, you know, 2-3 jobs to ensure that their kids are successful. But we need to ensure that our education systems give them also the support that they need to be successful in life and to go to college and to maybe someday run for council or city clerk or even PRC. So these are definitely areas that we need to ensure that you know, young children now have those basics.
I agree with you. So I know you mentioned, you know, you've been knocking on doors. What has that been like? You know, that I've met, you know, people here in Santa Fe that you knocked on their doors. We all commute from a lot of people commute from Rio Rancho, Albuquerque into Santa Fe to work daily, and so a lot of people have seen you and known you.
I
What is
think
it?
that we need to start thinking more regionally in terms of planning, because Albuquerque's only an hour away
Well,
from
soon enough it might
Santa
connect,
Fe.
with the exception of the
Yeah,
easements in
and
the.
Rio Rancho, I mean, affordable housing in Santa Fe, I know that's an issue, and a lot of people from Santa Fe have moved to Rio Rancho to find affordable housing. And so now that we have the rail runner, it makes it more convenient for people to actually live in Albuquerque and commute to Santa Fe to work, or vice versa. And so these sorts of connections are really important, and I'm really delighted to be able to be on your program to talk about that, because I think as a community, we need to start looking at those connections in a stronger way, and that includes our water and our drainage and how we make our resources available to the public.
So we've talked about, crime, education, and what other issues are you talking about when you're out in the public, when you're at forums, and what are some of the issues you'd like to bring to the table?
Well, right now the biggest issue in Albuquerque is crime, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of that also in Santa Fe. And I think that if we don't have crime under control, and we're seeing that in Albuquerque, some of our big businesses have said, we're not interested in moving to Albuquerque until the crime is under control. And
there you go. Nobody's going to want to even not only move, but bring their businesses. And I mean, think about it. You've got the balloon fiesta coming around the corner,
right.
And people have had not only their
Their
trailer,
vehicles.
but the balloons, and it's just amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, and honestly, you and I did not grow up in that environment, and I think that we need to get this under control, because it's a matter of quality of life. And quality of life in New Mexico, we have beautiful air, we have, we don't have a lot of water, but we have available water, I guess, and we have to preserve our resources. But if we don't get the crime under control, all these other things are they fall by the wayside, because the big businesses and the high-paying jobs that we want to attract are not going to want to come to New Mexico.
And this is why you're running for city council.
I believe that I have the experience, and I believe that I have the insight, and I also believe that I have the vision to make our city and to make New Mexico a really quality place to live. And I think that, we do have to have vision for 10, 20, 30 years from now for those younger people, those younger children that want to have a safe environment, a safe place to work, a safe place to live, a safe place to play.
I just thought of something before we run out of time. You brought up children, and I saw a really awesome picture of you with two little kids putting up a Firefighters for Cynthia's sign, and I thought that was pretty remarkable. I've also seen your literature, and you're surrounding yourself with children, and they are thrilled to be standing by you. I also know that you've had a little problems with, and that goes to say with every time you run. When I was running, you'd see your signs in the trash cans, and my granddaughter would say, "Look, Grammy, there's your sign, and it's in the trash can." So she and I will stop, get it out, and put it up again,
Yeah.
But I know you've experienced sort of the same thing. So what do? You just pick them up, move on. How has that been? Because there are ups and downs. You meet wonderful people that support you, and then then you see your signs down. After all,
I mean, I think it comes with the territory. And, I just go to my garage and grab another sign and go put it back, replace it where it's gone. And I guess that's just part of, I'm learning as I'm going along. And I think this is a journey, and it's a learning process. And, you just kind of have to shrug it off and move forward, because you have to keep your eye on the goal. And the goal is, I want to work to make New Mexico a better place to live. And, you know, in 20, 30 years, I'll probably be in a nursing home. And I hope that the kids that come after me that are doing what I'm trying to do now will be supporting me and making my life better as I age, you know. And so I think our future is our kids. And I do look to our future because I am a planner. I do look to strong leadership and vision for what do we want Albuquerque to be? What do we want Santa Fe to be? What do we want New Mexico to be? You know, you look, unfortunately, to some of our neighbors that have experienced catastrophe, like Houston and Florida, and you think to yourself, well, what do? They just start rebuilding. That's all they
Immediately.
can do. They have
And we're
to.
lucky to be here in
We
New
are
Mexico.
so blessed in New Mexico, and we have to count our blessings.
Absolutely. So I like that you pick up and move on. And
Yeah.
and the election's almost over. When is the election?
Actually, early voting started on Wednesday. And
I'm wondering why it's so different. I mean, everybody's saying, you know, why confuse the matter? There's an election in Santa Fe, but that's not till March. We haven't even had filing day here
Right.
for city candidates.
Yeah, we have a different system for the city election. Early voting started Wednesday, and it ends on the 29th. And October 3rd is the actual election. And, you know, I'm hoping that I can gain 50 plus 1 to win this election. That's my goal.
It seems like you're well on your way. The city here is having an election also, but it hasn't, you know, October 31st is the time, you know, the deadlines.
And I understand
so
that you're considering a run for mayor, and I give you so much credit. I think that you would do very well.
Well, you know, I love serving in office. That's my goal, my priority. My family supports me 100%. Even my family, you know, not only my daughter and granddaughter, but I have, you know, my sister, my brother, you know, my other relatives, my uncle. And, you know, we have a close-knit family. You know, you grew up in that same environment.
We were very lucky in that way.
And so I think, you know, I was born, Shirley Hooper used to tell me, you're born to serve, to, you know, to be in office. I wish I would have started, you know, a lot longer trying to make a difference in people's lives. So I really commend you for putting yourself out there.
Well, I think you definitely have to have that spirit, and sometimes you have to have a thick skin. And that's a hard thing sometimes to do, is because, you know, you take the good with the bad.
I agree with you. And thick skin, you don't ever really develop completely. It's just that, you know, you prove yourself and you do a good job, and people will follow that, and they will, you know, they'll choose. They'll have choices. People always have choices, just like in your race. And they're going to say, well, do you want her, him? You know, it just depends who they want to lead into the future, because you've already demonstrated your capabilities.
Well, and I think you look also to the person's background, and the person's background, you know, do they have what it takes to make our world a better place to live? And really, that's why I surround myself with the kids, because it really is about their future. I mean, if you think about it. And the policies that we put into place now are the policies that will affect their lives down the road.
Absolutely. And so we've got to stay engaged. And so anyhow, I mean, is there any last words you'd like to say to the viewing audience here in Santa Fe? You know, we have relatives here, and you're part of northern New Mexico. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to come here from Albuquerque, because we're all one big family.
Well, I guess what I would say is, first of all, thank you for having me on your program. I so much appreciate it and respect the work that you've done. I would love to gain support. I am excited about this race, and I am really excited about serving as the next city councilor for Albuquerque in District 5.
I do believe you're well on your way. I mean, what I've heard and what I've known you to be is very solid and very devoted and qualified and educated and all of the above. I mean, you can't take that away from our roots, and that is, you know, we went to school, we worked hard, we have to always continue and strive to prove ourselves. But once you gain that trust and respect, and you're ethical, and you believe in transparency, and you just put your best foot forward, it all comes back.
Yeah, and I think the passion, you have to have a passion for this kind of work. I mean, you know, government work is not always easy.
And you've got to get up every day and go to work 8 to 5, or actually it's really from 7 a.m. to about 8:30 p.m.
Well, and I think that I bring a unique skill also as having been a city planner, because I helped build Albuquerque, and I've worked in Santa Fe as well.
And just real quick before we do wrap up, I know we only have a couple seconds left, but how often does the City Hall meet?
The City Council, they meet once a month, but they also have small committees like the Finance Committee and the Land Use Committee. So there are.
Beautiful. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. You and I could have gone on forever, but I think we're out of time, and so thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck. Thank you for watching our program. If you'd like to participate, please give me a call at 827-4533. Thank you for watching.